So real quick, guys, for those of you who don't know, 2 years ago I started a co-op motorcycle garage in Orlando called Standard Motorcycle Co. I'd been around traveling, visited other co-op garages, and I saw a tremendous amount of opportunity to engage a non-endemic group in creative culture and bring them into the motorcycle industry. What I mean by that is Standard is a little different in the fact that we're heavily engaged with other aspects of our community. So we do art shows, we do chefs pop-up table tastings at our shop. I host local small business entrepreneur meetings at our facility. And what we're doing is we're tapping into local creative culture. And some people already know about motorcycles, a lot of them don't. And what we're actually seeing happen is people that have never ridden a motorcycle come to one of these events, get engaged, buy a motorcycle, work on it, take it down the road, and then share that story with someone else. So the point that I'm gonna try and do this shortly and succinctly.
Wait a minute, maybe I should time this. Okay, go.
is that I believe that co-op motorcycle garages are probably one of the single biggest points of attachment that we have to growing our industry. And that's what everyone is thinking about. It's not just about getting new riders, it's not just about getting new builders, it's about just getting new people and more people into motorcycling. We're going through a paradigm shift. We've gone through this last centennial, all the OEMs, the product companies, the lifestyle brands they've carried all of their product set and developed that product set with the need of that consumer. The consumer is completely different now. Millennials are going to control 1/3 of the entire global spend by next year. That's crazy. They buy differently, they interact differently, they're interested in different things. So figuring out how to tap into that group through a co-op facility benefits motorcycle OEMs. It benefits parts manufacturers. It benefits lifestyle brands. Because what you have as an opportunity by being engaged with a co-op is the platform to utilize to create a loyalist base, to take your product, use your product. Lincoln, perfect example. If there's 25 co-ops across the US and every co-op has Lincoln welders, there's a pretty goddamn good chance that the next 150 some odd builders that come up in this industry will have learned with red, as opposed to blue. It's a very difficult thing to manage and maintain and run a successful co-op. We've had to become very diverse in our offering. We had hoped that we were going to be able to open a co-op and facilitate it financially of its own accord, and we realized relatively quickly that was going to be difficult. So we had to pivot, and we developed a boutique service shop, and then a boutique custom shop. And so for me, the thing that I think that I can bring to this table, and Brian, you and I have a lot to talk about obviously offline, is there's a formula that I think we've almost got figured out that other struggling co-ops, if they could adhere to some of those best practices that we've created, we can help them flourish. And then if brands like Lincoln, if OEMs like Royal Enfield, if these companies that have a true interest in the health and wealth of the future of our industry can get involved, we can create a national, maybe even global platform for like I said, loyals to be created, products to be loved, experiences to be generated as a result of that. So I think, just real quick, I'll just run through just a couple of bullet points. A co-op is, as we define it, it's a collaborative workspace for people to share ideas and learn from one another. And this is the key word, in an immersive learning atmosphere. So when you're in a co-op, you're engaged, and you know this, Brian, you see your guys, you work with your guys. There's something different that happens inside of a co-op when you're holding an educational workshop than if you're at Wyotech or MMI. It's an organic entity that takes its own shape based on the contributions of its patrons and its supporters. They're all unique and diverse. I've mentioned this before. It's a platform for brands and partners to work together. The value, I think, really lies in the fact that these co-ops, they're incubators. They're incubators for riders, builders. The next Casey, designer from Bell, he could be at a co-op. The next Roland Sands, the next, Kevin Dunworth. Well, not you. No one's ever going to replace you, Kevin.
Sorry. Unicorn. Yeah, it's unicorn.
But to touch on, some of the challenges, you know, that we face, Brian, right? In a lot of areas, rent is expensive. Insurance is astronomical. You know, if you know, this is something that we've been struggling with, which I think I have a solution. You know, for a guy to run a co-op and do it safe, you know, he can spend as much as $10,000 a year on insurance. For a guy in a small area who's trying to make this happen, that can be the biggest single roadblock. So, some of the other difficulties that these garages face is, you know, buy-ins. You know, for a brand, for a co-op to get set up with a brand to be able to actually quickly and easily get parts so they can keep their members moving, because that's the biggest thing, right? When members, you know, they need to get a part and it takes 3 weeks to get a part, it kind of hampers that whole creative, inspirational process, and it becomes work and it becomes frustrating. You know, so streamlining that so that members can come in and do what they want to do and get their bikes done and get out and be happy motorcyclists, you know, spreading and evangelizing. It's typically dollar amount. You know, I mean, if a guy's got to make a $5,000 buy-in, you know, when you look at the revenues that a co-op produces, or a $10,000 buy-in with PU, you know, it's hard, you know, because a lot of these guys who have started these community garages, you know, the funny thing is, on this end, the lower end, the philanthropic side tends to correlate with not having a lot of money, right? Even from an owner-operator perspective. You know, people see things online and they think, oh gosh, those guys, you know, they must have tons of money and they got everything figured out, and what they don't realize is that, you know, the internet is not real. You know, people struggle every day, and I know you guys do, and I know the other 18 other community garages. So it's capital, Tony, you know, to answer your question. It takes a shitload of work, and it's really, I mean, yeah, it's not a business model where I think a lot of people want to be custom bike builders now, because being a custom bike builder is cool.
That's where the money's at, man.
That's where all the money's at. That's where all the money's at.
Yeah.
But starting a co-op garage it's not as sexy or alluring as just being a bike builder in a garage. But Casey, to your point, and Kevin, to your point before, this is kind of the last thing I'll say, and then I'll get off up here. You know, I've been talking about, you know, the difficulties that co-op garages face, you know, the value that they provide. I don't want you guys to think that they don't provide ROI to you as an OEM, to you as a parts company. And what they can provide is things that it's very difficult in our current socioeconomic status. You can't go buy this. And what I mean by that is organic, authentic content, real life situations, you know, captured photo, video, you know, storytelling, experience telling that can be leveraged through your brand to take your product and put it in the hands of people who are, instead of just an organized photo shoot, you know, with a simple bench, you know, these are real people doing real things in real garages. So capturing that content, R&D, you know, co-ops can be a huge resource. I mean, think about the pockets. You know, this area is metric, this area is V-twin, this area is British. You know, as OEMs, you can identify co-op garages and work with them to actually develop products. You know, broadcasted brand loyalty is huge. You know, talked about that earlier. You know, Lincoln placing product in a co-op garage, people experiencing that. You know, Tucker Rocky having visually cohesive marketing, you know, present in that shop, you know, so that it matches the look and the flow and the feel. And then, you know, people start, you know, a guy's at a co-op garage, who knows, maybe he does, you know, he starts to do his own thing and he opens a custom shop. Well, if he was exposed to Tucker Rocky at his community garage when he was 18 years old and he was just getting started, there's a pretty good chance he's going to buy from Tucker Rocky. So, you know, there's that, and you know, Casey touched on this. You know, we've shifted in our marketing processes to a very, you know, influencer, ambassador based market, and I just want to say that, you know, there's a lot of people throwing around this word influencer and ambassador right now. And, you know, Casey, you guys, I know you've experienced a lot of this firsthand. You know, there's a difference between, you know, an ambassador and an influencer. You know, an influencer really does move the needle. In what I correlate it to revenue and gross profit. You know, an ambassador is your revenue side, and an influencer is your profit side, because they're the ones, like you said, they're following people like Kevin, people like Tony, and they're aspiring to be like that. So leveraging those people in a co-op garage in that facility can create a tremendous ripple effect in the industry long term, I believe, with this next generation muralist. The importance for everyone in this room and the people that we know and the other key individuals, Bob, is now is the time for all of us to invest in our industry. We're shaping the next 75 years of motorcycling, and investment takes various forms. It can be capital investment, it could be sweat equity, it could be mentorship. Those are the things that every day, that's what I'm thinking about. And if I can task all of you with anything, if you aren't already, think about what can you do to help this industry, because it's gotten rocky at times. It's gotten pretty scary. We've recovered. We've got a lot of really exciting things happening, but it's not the easiest industry to survive in and make a living. And if we all invest and engage and try and work together and share these resources, I think that we could experience another not just another 75 to 100 years of motorcycling, but a better, a more profitable, a more fun and enticing and exciting, because we have 100 years of history to look back at, and we have all of the technology that we have to be able to maximize the return.
I've only been doing this 50 years, man.